Mrs. Robertson is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and I'm not just flattering her, but this is the truth. She's actually extremely smart, and she has responsibility for curriculum and instructional matters on both campuses, and she has spent a great deal of time putting together information regarding the digital textbooks themselves, and so I've asked her to demonstrate for you how these digital textbooks work. So, Mrs. Robertson.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I want to give you a bit of background knowledge that will hopefully be a word of encouragement to you, and that is the extensive amount of research that has gone into this initiative leading up to this point. I've had the opportunity for about the past year and a half to serve on a team led by Dr. Mosbacher to do extensive research in one-to-one implementations. Dr. Balick and Mr. Sanders, Ryan Westbrook with our IT department, and others have served on that team, and all of us giving specific tasks, go out and find out what's going on. And so we've participated in workshops, we've had video conferences, phone conferences, extensive communication one-on-one with numerous public schools and other Christian schools around the country who have implemented one-to-one. So we've asked the questions, we've asked the hard questions, and what's working and what's not in all of these different areas, and what do you recommend? So, and in addition to that, of bringing information to the school board, and their involvement has been so valuable. And even then, after all of this data, and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So it has been, it's been thoroughly researched leading up to this point. So as a parent and as having the opportunity to serve on the administrative team here at Briarwood, I hope that's an encouragement to you. I know it is to me. In fact, in my 22 years in education, I've never been part of an initiative that has been so thoroughly sought out and investigated prior to it getting into the hands of teachers and students. Okay, well, I have a fun part here of showing you what your child will be able to access on their iPad. Each student having their own iPad, they'll log in to their iPad like this, and I guess this isn't top secret information anymore in logging in, but they'll log in and they'll touch the app that will then give them access to any electronic textbooks that they're using, and I refer to it just as their bookshelf. So I'm going to show you a few of those. They'll touch the book, and it opens up, and this happens to be one of the texts for science, and it operates just like a regular textbook in that you can thumb through the pages as so, or using the toolbar at the top, can access the table of contents, and I'm going to collapse it and see generic overview, or I can expand it as such. And we're going to go ahead and let's just say we're in chapter 4, and we are studying DNA, the Code of Life. So I'm going to go there, and this is the first page in that chapter, talking about DNA. Well, why is this lobster blue? So the teacher and the students may have some conversation about that, and then the teacher might say, okay, I want you to answer that question, and the student can interact directly with the text by inserting a note. And this push pin would be evidence where a note has been inserted. So to show you how that works, I simply touch the screen and hit New Note, and I can type in a note of what I think may be the answer to that question, or to interact with the text in a variety of ways. Again, just thumbing through the chapter. Let's just say on a particular day that we are focusing on the structure of DNA. And as a student in the classroom, I'm realizing that the teacher is emphasizing how important this is, in that parents pass traits to offspring through chromosomes. And chromosomes are made of DNA and proteins and are located in a cell's nucleus. And he or she says, this is very important for you to know. In fact, I highly recommend that you know this for the test. So the student, right then and there, can touch the page, and touch the page, click highlight, and highlight that area of text that the teacher shared, and there it is. And they have that to reference back to for studying to realize the key points of what was said during class. I also, as a student, might want to insert my own note to say, remember this for, let's just say, quiz. And I'm going to save it, and I have a push pin right there to indicate that I have a note to refer back to. And even up in the toolbar, I can go back and search for notes in a variety of ways of where they have been inserted. Also, a great capability with the e-textbooks is the audio feature. And this is how it works.
What forms the genetic code? It took almost 100 years after the discovery of DNA for scientists to figure out that it looks like a twisted ladder.
Or I might want to skip to another
part. The rungs
part.
of DNA are made of nitrogen bases. Nitrogen bases are molecules that contain...
Okay, so this is a wonderful feature. Thinking of content area text, the readability is a lot different than when a child is in narrative text. A lot of times the readability might be above a student's instructional reading level, uses lots of technical vocabulary. So whether a student has an audio feature just to help them with a few words or a phrase, or to have an entire page read to them, that opportunity is available. Also, you can see key vocabulary is highlighted, and if the student touches that key vocabulary, there's an audio feature where it will read that vocabulary to them and also the definition.
Nitrogen bases. Molecules that contain nitrogen and other elements.
Okay. You can see that an entire wonderful glossary is available. And there's also a search feature to search keywords throughout the entire text. So let's just say that we're saying about nitrogen bases, and I don't have a full grasp of that at this point, and I want to see, get some more information about that. So I can do a search for nitrogen, and it's going to search that throughout the entire text and tell me where else that is discussed within the text. Also, a wonderful feature of the e-textbooks is the ability to zero in on certain areas. One thing about content area text is that it contains a lot of information. There are graphics, there's side notes, a lot of times the pages are busy. And so in a student's own learning and from an instructional standpoint, from the teacher's standpoint, there's that ability to zero in on what needs to be focused on for that period of time and alleviate all the extremities that are on the page. Come back, or like this. We want to zero in on the parts of the cell. As a teacher, I just inserted my own note here to make sure there were certain things that were covered that I didn't miss in the context of our information meeting this evening. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this textbook and go to Human Body Systems, another text that's used in our junior high science class in 7th grade. And let's just say we are studying, I'm going to go back. Going to expand this, and we're in the skeletal system. So lots of opportunity to interact with the text and insert notes, and for the teacher to give instruction and pause and have the students think about the information in some way and insert a note. Let's just say we have come to this part on what are the characteristics of the bones, the bone structure. So as the teacher, I've given this information. We've had teacher-student discussion, and it's very important as far as thinking of the neurosciences and the brain and learning, that after information is given, that students have the opportunity to interact with that information in some way, to reflect, to think about it before moving on with being given more information. So the e-textbooks further promote this realm of the brain and learning, where they can insert their thoughts with the graphics that are right in the text. So we've talked about the different bone structures, and say spongy bone, they can insert a note this is what spongy bone is. In fact, as a teacher, I would give that assignment. You see all these different bone structures. Now, in your own words, stop and think about this and go ahead and insert your notes right in the text as to what these are. Let's say that in the science instruction and learning, we bring out different elements. And let's just say we brought in the topic of potassium within our instruction, or it could be another element. Well, I'm going to exit out of the e-textbook and take you to the Elements app that is on your student's iPad. In fact, you saw it on one of the videos that were played. I'm going to open this up, and we've talked about potassium, but now we're going to actually see potassium and what it looks like. And we can go even deeper with this, more detailed information, and see even the other form, not only more explicit information about potassium, but other forms that it can take on, and even these visuals can be manipulated. You can have fun with it. I'm going to go show you what the literature text, a little bit about the literature textbook. We are on Unit 1. And keep in mind, this is a secular text. This could be very interesting. What is the best way to find the truth? So, as a teacher in a Christian school with the wonderful opportunity to teach biblical worldview, and we're in a secular text, what is the best way to find the truth? I would pause right here and have the students insert a note, because I want to know right off the bat what their worldview is. What do they believe truth is? How will they define truth? And then go on into the unit. This is a fiction versus nonfiction unit, by the way, but I want to get their immediate thoughts, and it can be right there in the book. And then we'll come back to it later on. So I'm going to move forward in the chapter. Lots of short stories in this unit, but I'm going to go to this one. It's called MK. And again, this is great. This isn't a secular text. This is a story about a missionary kid, and the author being Gene Fritz, who was that missionary kid. So the teacher assigns this. Your student reads it for homework, and they have been given this assignment. And so the teacher has skipped to the end of that story before the students even actually read it. So let's go to the end. And as a teacher, I say to the student, this is what I want you to think about when you read this story, MK. And this is how I want you to respond right within the text as you're reading and interacting with what the author is saying. So what the student can do right then and there, because as the teacher I'm going to say I want you to focus on, number one, how does the setting affect the events in this narrative? And also as you're reading the story tonight, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about number 4. And by the way, your child can set their own preferences. If they want pink highlight or yellow highlight or green highlight, they can do whatever color they would like. But anyway, so I also, the student knows they're to think about the text in this way. How does Jean's connection with Priscilla Alden help her find the truth? And what does Jean conclude about what makes a person a real American? So when the student comes back the next day, they have all the information right there within the text, where they interacted with that text, where they have put their own opinions and their own thoughts and ready for that discussion. Of course, they also have opportunity, other ways to take notes electronically, and sometimes we may still use pencil paper. And Dr. Mosbacher is going to show you some of the organizational features and other note-taking devices that are available on the iPad. And that concludes my part about textbooks, and Dr. Mosbacher is going to come and show you many other features that are available on your student's iPad.